I wish I could tell you it began with a whisper, a nagging suspicion, something delicate. But no, it erupted with a slap across the soul. Not physical, far worse. It was her silence. Her smug, complicit stillness as a man who wasn't me branded. Me a failure with a wallet right before her eyes. And she laughed. Not even a strained laugh, not even uncomfortable. She found it amusing. That razor-sharp chuckle was the instant my heart shattered and my pride incinerated to dust. We were at a dinner gathering, her circle, not mine. I never cared for these people. Finance vultures with excessive hair product and women sporting more Botox than backbone. But she insisted. It'll elevate your image, she declared, as if I were some accessory for her social ascension. Then there was him. Chase. Naturally, his name was Chase. 6 feet of manufactured perfection, counterfeit Rolex, voice louder than warranted, and not once did he stop appraising my wife like she wore a price tag. I watched her luxuriate in it, the attention, how he leaned uncomfortably close while speaking, and she never recoiled. But I bit my tongue until dessert arrived. That's when it detonated. He clinked his glass, rose, and offered a toast. To Madison, the most stunning woman present. I can't fathom how someone like her wound up with a guy who appears to manage a failing gas station. Laughter erupted, every soul there, including her. She didn't even wince. She didn't shield me. She beamed, tilted her head coquettishly, and sipped her wine. That was everything. I stood silently, composed, locked eyes with her, and declared, "Choose who matters most right now." Silence descended like a guillotine blade. She blinked once, then averted her gaze. That was my answer. I departed, but I didn't exit that restaurant carrying only heartbreak. I left with questions, with fury burning so intensely it made my jaw ache. I left with the haunting necessity to discover how long I'd been the punchline. Because it wasn't merely a disrespectful toast. No, that dinner wasn't the beginning. It was the center of the ending. And I was about to uncover just how profound the treachery ran. I didn't return home that night. I drove. No music, no navigation. Just rage. And headlights slicing through the darkness. The city blurred past while one question thundered like a war drum in my skull. How long has she been deceiving me? When I finally arrived at her house, my house, it was 3:12 a.m. Her vehicle sat perfectly in the driveway, as if everything was ordinary, as if nothing had transpired, as if she hadn't allowed another man to humiliate me like I was invisible. But I didn't enter. I remained in the car, observing the windows. The living room lights were extinguished, but her bedroom lamp glowed upstairs. I recognized that warm radiance. She always left it illuminated when she stayed awake late texting, video calling or whatever. I retrieved my phone. I had never examined hers before, never needed to, but something fractured inside me, so I accessed the cloud. You know, the one where all our devices synchronized, photos, notes, messages. God, I should have braced myself better. The first conversation I opened belonged to a contact named L. No emoji, no surname, just L. Initially, nothing significant, but then I scrolled and scrolled, and it deteriorated. He's so tedious when discussing his work. I swear I fabricate my responses half the time. You make me feel electric, unlike him. I wish he could witness how pathetic he sounds when he claims he trusts me. I felt my stomach contort, but I continued reading. You should have visited tonight. He's out late again, probably purchasing another one of those sad button-downs he believes make him appear ambitious. Let's repeat that thing this weekend, the one with the mirror. I couldn't breathe. I sat in my car, suffocating on the realization that my marriage wasn't just crumbling. It had been lifeless for months, maybe years, and I never noticed because I trusted her, I defended her, I adored her, and throughout it all she was feeding him fragments of my dignity like it was sport. I opened our security camera application. We'd installed them for peace of mind. Ironic. I clicked on the living room feed, the archive from last Sunday while I visited my mother's. There they were, Madison and Elle, The same man from the dinner. Chase. They weren't even discreet. He entered, like he owned the place. She welcomed him like she was starving and he was sustenance. And what they performed on my couch, I'll never erase that twisted spectacle. She laughed when he joked about me being too exhausted to keep pace. She didn't defend me. She didn't flinch. She concurred. I closed the app. I leaned back. I didn't weep. I didn't scream. I merely whispered to myself, "You surrendered everything to a woman who traded you for attention. Tomorrow I confront her. But tonight I grieve the man I used to be, the one who believed love was sufficient." The sun hadn't even emerged when I walked through the front entrance. It was quiet. Too quiet. That species of silence that feels like it's waiting to shatter into fragments. I left my shoes by the door as always, from habit more than anything. My heartbeat was steady, my steps intentional. I wasn't arriving to scream. I wasn't arriving to plead. I was arriving for answers. No, for confirmation. She remained in bed, the same bed we shared, wrapped in the same sheets where I once held her like she was the most precious thing I'd ever touched. Now all I saw was a facade, a liar sleeping as if she wasn't destroying lives in her spare time. "Madison," I said, just her name. Her eyes fluttered open. It took her a moment to register it was me. "Oh hey, you're back early. What time is it?" She sat up, rubbing her eyes like I was merely interrupting a dream. I stared at her. "It's finished." She blinked. "What's finished?" I held up my phone. My hand didn't even tremble. "You, me, this charade you've been orchestrating behind my back." Her face transformed, not with shame, not even with fear. It twisted into irritation, like I just posed a stupid question before her friends. "Wow," she said, throwing the sheets off herself. "You've been surveilling me?" "Surveilling?" I laughed once, sharp and bitter. "You brought him into my house, onto my couch. You ridiculed me like I was some—" She stood, now crossing her arms. "Look, maybe if you weren't so predictable, so mundane, I wouldn't have needed to find someone who actually made me feel alive." I stepped closer. "Alive? You call that being alive? Lying to my face? Whispering to another man while I'm destroying myself to give you everything?" She rolled her eyes. "You gave me a prison. Chase gives me liberation, excitement, adventure. God, Evan, don't you understand? I outgrew you. That was it. Not, I'm sorry. Not, let me explain. Just, I outgrew you. You defended the man who disrespected me before you," I said slowly, like she'd missed the gravity of it. "And you smiled while he did it. So I'm giving you one opportunity to stop pretending." She looked at me, arms still crossed, chin lifted. "What opportunity?" "Decide who matters most right now." She didn't answer. She didn't even hesitate. She walked past me, grabbed her phone and said, "I think you already know the answer." My chest didn't collapse. It hardened. In that moment, I knew everything I needed to know about the woman I married and the stranger she'd become. When the door slammed behind me, I didn't feel liberated. I felt hollow. You expect that moment, the one where you finally confront them, where all the truth explodes to arrive with clarity, some surge of strength. But instead, I walked out feeling like I just buried someone. Maybe I did. Maybe I buried the version of me that still believed in her. The streets were quiet. I didn't even know where I was driving. I just needed motion, something to convince me I was advancing forward and not just plunging deeper into some emotional abyss. The world appeared different now. Colors dimmer, people colder. I caught myself wondering how many other couples walking by were performing too. How many other husbands were being deceived and didn't even realize it. I parked near the lake, just sat on the hood of my car, and stared at the water. That's when the sadness struck. It wasn't loud. It was quiet, heavy, the kind of sadness that doesn't cry or scream. It just sits in your chest like a weight you know won't disappear soon. I thought about the first time I met Madison. She had this energy, like she illuminated the air around her. I was captivated instantly. She used to tell me I made her feel secure, like home. I believed her. Every word, every kiss, every plan we made. But now I saw it for what it was. A performance. I started questioning everything. Did she ever love me? Or was I just the safe option she needed until someone with more flash and less integrity appeared? The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was realizing I meant less than nothing to her in the end. That she didn't even attempt to lie her way out of it because I wasn't even worth that. I stared at my reflection in the car window. I didn't recognize the man looking back. Eyes dull, shoulders tense, mouth set in a rigid line. She stole something from me. Not just trust. She stole the version of myself that believed I was enough. But here's the thing about rock bottom. Once you hit it, you stop falling and you start climbing. That night, as I sat by the water and watched the ripples catch the moonlight, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to let her be the final chapter of my story. She was going to be the turning point. Tomorrow, I'd make my next move. Not out of pain, not out of revenge, but out of power. Because no one gets to laugh at me and walk away without consequences. By the next morning, the grief had stopped clawing at my throat. It had transformed into something sharper, colder, more focused. I didn't want apologies, I didn't want explanations. What I wanted was control again. I walked into my kitchen like a soldier entering hostile territory. The house reeked of her perfume. Her cup was still on the counter, half full. That used to be an endearing little habit. Now it made my skin crawl. She wasn't home. Probably with him. Perfect. Because this wasn't going to be a conversation anymore. It was going to be a decision. Mine. I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I started with the lawyer. Quick call, calm voice, just the facts. Yes. I'd like to proceed with a divorce. Irreconcilable differences, infidelity, emotional cruelty. Next, the bank. Our accounts were joint. I had already opened a new one the night before, and within 10 minutes, every penny that was legally mine had been transferred. I left her just enough to keep the utilities running for a week, then the locks. I called the locksmith, asked him to be discreet, and tipped him triple to complete it in under 30 minutes. He didn't ask questions. Smart man. I stood in the doorway as he worked, the cold breeze brushing against my face while I watched him replace the core of every lock on the property. New keys, fresh beginning. I walked into our bedroom and opened her side of the closet. I didn't throw anything out. I didn't go full petty and burn her things. No, I boxed them neatly, carefully, without rage. I stacked every reminder of her, every heel, every blouse, every fake smile captured in a framed picture, into containers and placed them by the door, her entire presence reduced to cardboard. There was one last thing I had to do. I grabbed the envelope, the one with the printed screenshots, her messages, the photos, the timestamps. I slid it inside a manila folder, sealed it, and placed it on top of her boxes. On the front, I wrote in black marker, "This is why. Don't bother calling." By the time she returned later that evening, I was already sitting in a hotel room downtown, with a drink in my hand and no wedding ring on my finger. She called once, I didn't answer. She texted, "What the hell is this? Are you serious right now?" Then another, "We can talk about this like adults. Don't do anything stupid." Like adults. The irony made me laugh aloud. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Because the second you stop begging for love from someone who weaponized it against you, you become dangerous. The day I woke up to chaos, 12 missed calls, 17 texts, 3 voicemails. Madison was spiraling. "You can't just discard years like this. You're acting like a child. This is insane. Just come home so we can talk." And finally, the desperate one. "Please, I made a mistake. Don't make me regret telling the truth." That one made me laugh bitterly. She didn't tell the truth. I dragged it out of the shadows and slammed it onto the table for her to choke on. The only thing she regretted was getting caught. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded all her messages to my lawyer and asked him to proceed with everything. Asset division, property rights, everything down to the last signature. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of another dramatic scene. That part of my life was over. She didn't take it well. By noon, she was outside the hotel. The front desk called me in a panic. "Sir, there's a woman here demanding to speak to you. She says it's urgent." I looked through the security camera feed on the app and saw her, sunglasses, disheveled hair, pacing back and forth like a lioness who just realized her cage had been welded shut. I walked down slowly. She saw me the moment I stepped into the lobby and rushed forward. "Evan, please just listen to me." I held up a hand. "Don't cause a scene." She froze, shocked by my tone. I used to soften when I spoke to her. I used to fold. Not anymore. "I came here because we need to talk like two people who shared something real," she said, voice trembling just enough to seem human. "We didn't share something real," I replied. "I did. You shared lies. You don't understand." "I understand. Perfectly." I cut her off. "You picked your side at that dinner when he insulted me and you smiled. That was the clearest thing you've ever said." Her eyes welled up. "It didn't mean anything." "And neither do your tears," I said. "Save them for someone who's still fooled." She took a shaky breath. I thought you'd fight for us." I leaned in just enough for only her to hear. "You don't get to burn a bridge and then be shocked when I don't swim back through the flames." She flinched. That was the first time I saw her break. Really break. No mask, no defense, just the realization that her fallback plan had just walked away without looking back. I turned and walked away. And this time she didn't follow. I thought closure would come with some grand event. Maybe watching her move out. Maybe standing in a courtroom hearing the final judgment. Maybe even some last dramatic confession from her lips that would validate everything I felt. But closure didn't come like that. It came in silence. 2 weeks passed. Madison stopped trying. No more texts, no more what-if messages, no more sudden appearances outside my hotel or at my office. She vanished like smoke after a fire finally dies. That should have made me happy. Instead, it made me still. Not bitter, not angry, just still, like I'd reached the eye of the storm and realized the chaos had already passed. One night I returned home. Yes, home. The one I paid for. The one where I once imagined raising a family. It was empty now. Her boxes had been collected, her perfumes gone, no trace of her heels in the closet or her fake laugh echoing through the halls. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a drink, and sat at the table. This is where we used to talk, where she'd sit scrolling through her phone while pretending to listen, where I tried to engage with a woman who was slowly becoming a stranger. Now it was just me and the truth. And for the first time in years, the truth didn't scare me. It empowered me. I opened my laptop and finished the final email to my lawyer confirming the asset split. I'd given her the furniture, the vacation points, even the luxury car, the one I paid for. Not because I was weak, but because I didn't need any of it anymore. She could keep the scraps. I was rebuilding from the ground up, and this time without rot beneath the surface. The next morning, I canceled all the subscriptions she used, streaming platforms, designer boxes, even the overpriced wine of the month club she never drank from. Symbolic maybe, but necessary. Then I did something even more important. I called my brother, my real brother, the one I hadn't talked to in months because she convinced me he didn't respect her. That was her tactic. Isolation. Distance. He picked up on the second ring. "Evan?" "Yeah," I said, clearing my throat. "You, busy?" "Not for you." That hit me harder than I expected. We talked for 2 hours, laughed, made plans, reconnected. That's when I realized something crucial. Healing doesn't start when they apologize because sometimes they never do. Healing starts the moment you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who was never worthy of you. Madison was never my closure. I was. And now I was finally free. People always say time heals everything. They're wrong. Time doesn't heal anything. It only gives you space. What you do in that space, that's what decides whether you bleed or build. And I chose to build. It started slowly. I began waking up without a weight on my chest. I stopped checking my phone, hoping for closure. I stopped replaying every argument, every lie, every late-night whisper she gave to someone else. Instead, I started living again. I took a trip by myself. Nothing fancy, just a cabin upstate. No reception, just me, some trees, and air that didn't feel poisoned by betrayal. I read books I never finished, cooked meals for one, and actually enjoyed the silence that used to haunt me. I remembered what it felt like to just be, and I learned something I never expected. Being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Madison made me feel alone while lying next to me. That's the cruelest kind of loneliness, the kind where someone's presence feels emptier than their absence. Now I didn't feel hollow anymore. I felt whole. I started reconnecting with friends, real ones, people she had pushed away labeled as bad influences or immature. I realized how many of my relationships she had controlled subtly and deliberately. I stopped blaming myself. That's the thing about betrayal. It makes you question your reflection. It turns every strength into a flaw. Maybe I was too boring, too predictable, not enough. But the truth is, I wasn't the problem, she was. She wanted excitement more than loyalty, applause more than love, attention more than respect. She didn't just lie to me. She lied to herself, built a fantasy on top of a foundation of manipulation, and expected it to last. But karma doesn't forget. A month after the divorce was finalized, I got a message from an unknown number, just 2 lines. I miss how safe you made me feel. Chase isn't who I thought he was. I stared at the message. I didn't block her. I didn't reply. I just smiled because I had no intention of being her safety net ever again. She made her choice, and I walked away from the fire without begging for a single drop of water. So if you're reading this and you're in the middle of that chaos, if your world just cracked open and you don't know who you are without them, listen to me. You will survive. Not just survive. Rise. Let the pain shape you, not define you. Let the loss remind you of your worth. Let them drown in the mess they created while you learn how to breathe again. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say isn't, I love you. It's, you don't matter anymore. And mean it. That was my freedom. That was my lesson. And I never looked back.